Thank you all for coming. And as you may know from the title of my presentation, I'm going to talk to you about the theme review team, which is probably the most tongue-twisting name of a team at WordPress.org. So a short introduction about myself. I'm Denis Žoljom, and I actually come from Croatia, where I work as a lead WordPress engineer at a company called Infinem. But the reason you're all here for is actually to hear about my other title, which is the automation representative at the WordPress.org's theme review team. So before I get into all the nitty-gritties about what we do at theme review team and how we do stuff and how we communicate, etc., I want to tell you a story. And in order to tell you a story, I need to set up a mood. So how did it all actually begin? It was 1439. And the Gutenberg just started printing press. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go that far back in the history. But I am going to go a bit far in the history. Actually, I'm going to go back to 2014. This year is significant for me because I actually graduated college. I studied physics at University of Zagreb. And the last year of my college looked a bit like this. I was like, what is this? I don't even know what this means. So as it turns out, physics is super interesting, but it's kind of misleading when you look at Neil deGrasse Tyson and his documentaries. You know, he always makes it sound so cool and so easy, but it's actually kind of hard. So I thought to myself, okay, this is maybe not for me. What do I want to do? The first thing on my mind was, okay, I need to have some money because I want to move out of my parents' house. Logically, the next step. And where to get money? Well, in banks, of course. So I applied for a lot of different banks, trying to see if I can get some kind of job there. Because, you know, nothing bad ever happened when physicists try to intervene with the world's economy, right? Oh, no. These are spoilers. Okay, so besides wanting to work at banks, I also did some web development during my time at college. I did your basic 960 pixel grid websites. I did some stuff with Joomla, and all that kind of seemed interesting. And you know, when you search for a job for more than 6 months, you kind of become a bit desperate, I say. And one day, I stumbled upon a task and a job ad, a listing that said a WordPress developer needed. But you need to solve this. You need to create this like image using just one div. So I was like, oh, I got this. I know HTML and CSS. Like, I rock this. I can do this. So naturally, this is what I did. And I was like so proud of myself. Oh, this looks perfect. I did it all in the developer tools. And I was, yeah. And then I went back and reread the actual requirements. And it said like, oh, use just one div. I was like, oh, so just one div. OK, we may have a problem. So naturally, I Stack Overflowed, I Googled, and I discovered something called pseudo-elements, which is like a totally new thing for me. And I realized that I actually don't know as much as I think I know about this whole web development. But I rewrote my application, I sent it, and the next day, my future boss called me and said, hey, I need somebody to work on WordPress themes, and you did this quite well, so why not go to interview and we'll see. And I got my first job. And I was very happy because it was my first job after college, and it was very significant for me, and it was in web development. So the next few years were kind of like a learning experience. I didn't know anything about WordPress at that time, so I came like with a blank slate, and I started learning more and more about how PHP works, how JavaScript works, how all these templates work. And it was a process, definitely. During this time, I actually read a lot. I read a lot of documentation. And I realized that there's a whole community behind WordPress, that it's not just like a company doing one thing and one development. There's like people all over the world. So I was kind of excited about that. Oh, this is interesting. And the process that we actually worked with Theme Forest themes. So if any of you ever did build any kind of a theme for Theme Forest, you know that you have to go through a review process. So you build your theme, it kind of sucks, and then you send it, and they say, oh, you didn't escape this, you didn't sanitize this, you need to fix this. and so on and so forth. And this process kind of is one way with this reviewer. And it happens every time, and happened every time that we built a team. So we would build it, we would review, the reviewer would review it at Team Forest, and it would get sent back. It was just back and forth, back and forth. So this is basically how my WordPress journey began. My biggest step forward was in 2016. It was my first WordCamp, just like this one, but it was in Split. And it opened my mind to new possibilities. I realized that there are a lot of different teams at WordPress.org. There's translation team, there is people who are working on documentation, and all sorts of other plethora of choices to actually choose from. I learned definitely a lot at that conference, but I was also kind of puzzled because there are so many things that you can contribute. Where do you contribute? What is it that you can actually help with? My limited experience with WordPress didn't allow me to actually contribute to any core code at that time. I was kind of scared because you don't know what you're doing there. There are people who are in this business for 10 years and they know the core inside and out. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm building themes, so maybe I can help with the theme part of WordPress. And I kind of start working, logging into the Slack account and working with theme review team on reviewing actual themes. What I kind of liked about what I'm doing basically today at the theme review team is that the nature of the developer's experience is that we like to automate things. We like to use computers because computers are there to help us do stuff that we don't have to do manually. And one thing that I actually saw that I was doing over and over and over is kind of repeating the same mistakes. And this is a quote by Bill Gates, which is originally by Frank Gilbert Sr., and everybody is misquoting it to Bill Gates, but he said that he will always choose a lazy person to do a hard job because that lazy person, with quotes, will find an easy and fast way to actually do this job. And at the time, I thought to myself, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this review thing. And indeed it was. There was this tool called PHP Code Sniffer, which is a static analysis tool, and it actually just goes through your code line by line and reads it and finds some issues with it, possible issues with it. And I was like, this is awesome. And naturally, I tried to cram it down to my colleagues' throats, and they were like, I don't know. And I was so happy about it. There's this automated tool that can cut down on our development time by more than half. We'll just see where our issues are because you just do it unconsciously when you develop a theme. You know a pattern and you just go with it. But it turns out that that pattern can be actually wrong. So I was very happy about it, and I went to the theme review team oh, there's this PHP Code Sniffer thing, and you can actually review themes much quicker. You don't have to do this all manual process, which is kind of tedious. And it turns out that they already knew about it. They knew about the coding standards, they knew about the PHP Code Sniffer, and they actually had built a plugin at that time called the NS Theme Check, built by one of the administrators, one of the leads at that time at Theme Review team. So I was kind of happy about it, and I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be included as well. And I started working on it on my own, making some small pull requests, seeing how the code works, and it eventually became obvious that I was the only one that actually maintains this plugin. So I tried to rename it maybe to something a bit more user-friendly, and we called it the Theme Sniffer. And this is how it all basically began. The latter years came quickly. 2017, it was a huge milestone for me. I got a job at Infinum, where I work today, and my knowledge grew exponentially. And I got more and more involved with WordPress. And I tried to contribute to all the things. So I started doing some documentation fixes, some core patches, some meta patches, trying to get all the badges because they're cool. And I realized that as you contribute, it can be a bit daunting at first, scary, because you're not that good with the ecosystem. But as you do it more and more, you realize that there are people who are doing the same thing, and they're glad to help, and they will help you, and they're glad to have somebody contribute, besides you, of course. And what this means that when you do it a long time, and when you do it constantly, it gets noticed. And for me, it got noticed in a way that I was asked to lead a Contributors Day at WordCamp Europe in 2018 in Belgrade. And I'm not sure if any of you were here in 2018, yeah. So you know the famous Wi-Fi issue that we had? Oh, yeah, so in the end, we didn't do much of a contributing, but it was great to actually meet people. And I am naturally an introverted person, so I don't really like to just go to, oh, hi, how are you? I'm Denis, yeah. I'm more of like, yeah, hi, and just scuttle along. But this experience actually changed me. It kind of forced me to go out of my shell, you know, because we didn't have Wi-Fi, so we didn't actually do much of a theme review, but we talked a lot and we exchanged ideas. And this exchange of idea is basically what these WordCamps and what this community is all about. And this was something that was really, really inspiring for me, and it made me want to contribute more. And it's a nice feeling. And as I've said, when you contribute and when you are part of the team, when you go to team meetings and when you say your mind, when you say, oh, I don't think this is good, maybe we should try it this way, it gets noticed. So it got noticed again in 2019, and I had to lead another Contributors Day at Berlin last year, and that was great. That was awesome because you meet people from other teams, and then you have meetings with them, and then you brainstorm ideas. And from one such brainstorm, a WP theme review coding standard for PHP Code Sniffer was born. There is actually a coding standard for WordPress, which uses the PHP Code Sniffer, and it's ran by what I kind of like to consider as my mentor from WordPress.org, Juliet Reinders-Vollmer. And she's an awesome developer. And she said, okay, we already have this subset of sniffs that can actually go through the team. Maybe we need just a separate repository, separate coding standard that people who are building themes and who are reviewing themes can actually use. So WP Theme Review was born, and it's still going on. We're still maintaining it, and we're still finding new contributors and just trying to make the contribution go on. And as the time went on, more meetups happened, more conferences happened. You could just kind of talk to people, and you realize that these are awesome people. WordPress community, if anything, is filled with awesome people. And this is how I actually got called to this conference back at Contributors Day. Carolina was asking me like, hey, you know, if you're interested, we're organizing a conference in Prague, and you know, you can talk about how it is to contribute to a team at WordPress.org. So this is basically why I'm here. I met a lot of great people, and they said, hey, join us. So you're probably thinking to yourself like, okay, what does this have to do with the theme review process? It's just to showcase how a person with no hardcore programming background and not like 10 years of experience actually came to the place that I am today. And today I'm a lead engineer at a company, and I'm helping with team authors at WordPress.org, and it's a nice feeling. And all you have to do is contribute. All you have to do is have this a little bit of passion and time that you can share to contribute to great things. 2019 was definitely a year of changes for us because we reorganized the structure. Usually at the team review team, we had like 3 or 2 lead administrators, somebody who was leading the team. But we saw that this is kind of inefficient, and we didn't change this structure in a very long time. So we thought to ourselves, the few of us, okay, we have these different strengths, these different approaches to things. For instance, I'm good at automation tools. I like to build plugins and I like to tinker with the code. William is great at communicating with people in other teams. Carolina and Ganga Kafle, they're awesome reviewers, and they can review teams like 10 or 15 teams in one day, which is not a small feature. So we kind of reorganized the team leadership structure, and we called ourselves the representatives. So we are basically the voices of our team at WordPress.org. That means that we get to speak with, I don't know, Josefa Haddon or Matt Mullenweg and talk to them like, hey, we have these issues, can you help us solve them? And we also talked with authors. You know, we try to see, because we're kind of in this bubble of ours, and when you're in a bubble, you don't often see all the problems that are existing outside. So having people coming to us and saying, okay, I have a problem with this, or this requirement is not clear enough, can you help us? It really gives us a great opportunity to advance and to evolve. Also, we started working with a lot of different teams. So we are working with systems or meta team for improving the WordPress.org themes part. We're working with core editor, which is the Gutenberg editor that you all are familiar with. We're working with documentation people. We also have a representative that is working on handbooks. So there are a lot of things that are happening under the hood that usually authors don't really see. So what are actually my responsibilities? Well, help in any way I can. I usually work with some kind of automation tools, as I've said. So Theme Sniffer is something that I'm a lead developer on. Writing coding standards and writing sniffs for them so that people can actually use these tools. I write some meetup notes. I discuss issues. I go to other meetings with other teams. Basically help in any way I can. Recently, I actually started leading the triage meetings where we actually go through all the tickets that are some kind of issues that people had either on WordPress.org or on related projects, and then we solve them. We try to write patches for them and try to help people set up contributing systems for themselves. What are some tips and tricks that I can give you, whether you are a theme author or a theme reviewer? First of all, people don't read. For some reason, there is this whole aversion to reading. I'm still not sure what the cause of that is. We do have two handbooks. There is the review handbook and there is the theme development handbook. And they are an amazing source of information that you can actually use to make your themes better. So we're not only doing that, but we're also having a lot of packages written by our team representative, Ari. And he's helping educate people more and more on how to build a proper theme, on what to look out for, like sanitization, escaping, these sorts of issues. And during this several months that we've worked as a representation, like a representative structure, we noticed that there are like holy trinity of issues in themes. So the first one is GPL compatibility. Unlike plugins, themes have to be GPL compatible because they are a direct descendant of the original theme that was in WordPress. So themes are just a presentational layer, and every asset that they bundle, every image that they bundle, every script that they bundle, it has to be GPL compatible. And people don't actually understand the term GPL compatibility, so they're kind of they think that everything has to be like GPL v2 or GPL v3, but it can actually be MIT or other licenses. Also, we have some issues with this licensing when you are an author on ThemeForest. ThemeForest has this dual license stuff where there is a part of it that's actually GPL compatible, and there is a part that is ThemeForest license. And this license is stricter, and it's not following the rules of freedom that WordPress has. So oftentimes we just go and say, okay, you can have your themes at ThemeForest, it's not a problem, but you will need to adjust the licensing on those themes if you want to have themes present at WordPress.org. Another issue is the security, and this is a big one, because we always strive to have secure themes at WordPress.org. And we had an issue where people were bundling demo importers because they make life easy. But most often than not, those demo importers had like spammy links. So you would import your demo, and you had a demo content with a bunch of spammy links, and that would cause you trouble in the long run. So we had to remove all the demo importing stuff from the themes. Also, people are kind of confused about sanitization and escaping. So escaping is when you have input, like in Customizer or somewhere else in a meta field, and you want to show that on your theme. And you have to escape this this variable, because you don't know what a person might add in this field. You never know if somebody hijacks your site and they can actually inject some kind of script in there. So that can cause you harm. Sanitization while actually inputting data in your database is also very important to actually strip any kind of evil stuff out. So these are the things that people are kind of not thinking about. And we also have a requirement that you cannot require plugins. Your theme must work as is, because it's just a presentational layer. It's just there to show a pretty nice website, you know. Most often than not, people are actually just requiring plugins. Oh, I need to have this core plugin, or I need to, I don't know, WooCommerce must be installed in order for my theme to exist. And this is all kind of a problem that stems maybe from ThemeForest, because you have this multi-purpose behemoth themes at ThemeForest, and you can bundle a bunch of functionality inside, and you can require actually a lot of plugins in order for your theme to work. But we don't allow that. We don't want to force user lock-in, which is what you would get when you would require a plugin. And if you would hardcode some kind of content in your theme, added some functionality, if a user might want to switch your theme to another theme, they would lose content. This is like a big no-no for us. So how can you help? You can actually read. You can actually try to see if many of the requirements that we have are maybe hard to understand, if there is something you can actually help us to improve on reading these requirements even better. That helps a lot. Any kind of contribution, whether you're just present at the meetings and saying your mind, it's really, really valid. So I put these two QR codes. One is to our review handbook, and one is for our theme development handbook. Both are great sources of information. Both are great sources of actually education. So this is something that you can look around and maybe even improve upon. What is the future of WordPress themes? Things are actually changing a lot. The way we perceive themes perceived themes in the past change now. And it's all thanks to our lovely front-end editor, well, back-end editor, I think, called Gutenberg. Blocks are everywhere. This is the new paradigm shift. This is something that we'll have to get used to. They're not going anywhere, and you might not be happy about it, and I know that there were mixed feelings, but there is actually a lot to be learned from, and it's an exciting era that we're kind of entering in. What we're working on with the core editor people at the moment is working on this full-site editing. So you will have footer, and you will have header, and you will have global styles that you can enter either via some kind of manifest JSON file or from the backend. And you can actually create these different types of themes, and everything is basically the whole premise of full-site editing is to move the concern of functionalities from the theme to the core editor. You know, everything should be handled by core, and themes just need to be pretty. In one way, it's kind of limited, and we thought, but okay, then what's the point of a theme if everything can be done with Gutenberg? We don't have anything to work with. But there actually is. And the way we do it, we have a lot of meetings, we give a lot of input. We are working on some kind of, Ari is working on a package that will maybe transform your old content into your new content, into blocks. We're actually exploring a lot and working a lot with it. The collaboration is the key. And WordPress.org is like a huge distributed organization. So collaborating with many different teams is paramount, definitely. And more interesting experimentation is happening as we speak right now. There is actually a GitHub repo called Theme Experimentation on GitHub/WordPress, where you can actually see how this full-site editing will work out. For now, it's still experimental, and don't install it on your production servers. So just a word of precaution. Another thing that I'm happy to announce is that we're also going through a change as a team. We realized in the past 6 or so months that we're doing a lot more than just reviewing. So when people see, oh, theme review team, oh, we're just reviewing themes. But that's not actually true, because 3 of our representatives helped with 2020, the default theme that came out like a few months ago. I helped with the coding standards of that theme as well. So we're working with a lot of different like cross-team collaboration stuff. Even with Meta, we're kind of trying to help them out writing patches. So we thought to ourselves, maybe we should kind of change our name. You know, we're not just doing reviews. So one thing that we're currently in the talks with Josepha Haddon, who is a WordPress executive of the WordPress project at Automatic, is maybe kind of rebranding ourselves into themes team, because we are actually working on themes. And yeah, so things are happening, things are moving. Collaboration is the key. WordPress as a community is awesome and is accepting. So it's not a problem for us to just help you out if you just ask. All you need to ask, and you don't have to be afraid. So if you want to contribute, you can just find me in the hall. I'll be here all day around, and you can like tug me at my sleeves and like, hey, I would like to contribute. My setup is, I don't know how to work on it. I would like to write patches, but I'm not sure. So whatever question you have regarding Team Review Team or anything themes related, just come and ask me afterwards. And if you're attending the contributor day tomorrow, I'll be there for a short amount of time because I have to go back to Croatia and it's a long way there. But yeah, if you want to help out, just ask me. It's not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last time I was checking our Slido, there was no question. So let me ask. If I made a team and magically the team is correct and everything is all right, how long does it take to be approved?
Currently, it's somewhere around 4 to 6 months. The main problem with the current review system and why I like to work on this automation is to maybe cut down on the review time. The problem is that this is all volunteer. We don't get paid for this. So it looks awesome that you get like they say, oh, come to our conference and talk about this, and it's awesome, and it's an awesome feeling, but it is something that we all do in our free time. So because we do it in free time, not a lot of it is done quickly, because we don't have like dedicated teams, as I've said, themes, tongue twisty. We don't have like people who are actually paid to do reviews. So if you're somebody who has a company and want to sponsor people, like, also let me know. Yeah, we're kind of also working with some companies, maybe trying to get them to sponsor a few of our like top reviewers who are really good at their job. So we're trying to cut down on this queue time. And with the full-site editing, it's a really, really big possibility that the reviews will be super, super simple, because you won't have any kind of PHP templates. You'll just have HTML templates from what you get from Gutenberg. So this will just be like, oh, super, you don't have any major issues. Approved. Yeah. But for now, it's 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, it's quite long. Yeah. And I heard it's quite long. I was thinking about making my own team, and people from community told me, like, try to first do some team review, find out what are common mistakes, learn on the mistakes, and then your team will be much better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is actually what I did when I started out. I started reviewing themes, and then I actually built my own. And then I even got a feedback from like the admin reviewers, like, oh, you missed this. This shouldn't be done. You should use like core functionalities and stuff. But the good thing about it is that you get a feedback from somebody who has experience, and this helps you a lot, definitely. One thing that you need to be careful about is not copying over content from popular themes, because popular themes have been popular for a very long time now, for 2 or 3 years, and maybe they haven't changed up with all the requirements. They haven't updated in, I don't know, 4 to 6 months. So the best thing is just to read the requirements, and if you have any questions, go to Slack and like, hey, I'm not sure what this means. Somebody will definitely answer and help out. This is also a way that you can learn to write themes better. Just copying over the popular themes is not usually in the best course of action.
And can you review your own team?
Sure. I mean, you can review your own team, but this is something that you actually are doing while writing a theme. So you cannot like set it live. You can review it and say, oh, I messed this up. Yeah, you can comment on your ticket because everything is uploaded to Track. We're also working on moving that to GitHub a bit, but it's a complicated process. You can review it, but as I've said, I think that this is something that you should do while developing a theme. So you cannot set it live anyhow.
Is there any question from you?
You mentioned in the section about the future of the teams. Did you ever consider building a team with some modern JavaScript technologies like client-side rendering or stuff like that to allow for native mobile applications? I mean, mobile applications are like 80% of the market today, and wrappers are all fine and dandy, but we'll still like a native mobile application.
Yeah, so at our company, we do such things. We do this headless WordPress stuff, but most of the functionality that we are actually using is in the plugin. So we don't actually use the theme. We just bundle every kind of business logic and functionality to a plugin, and then I build the REST API responses and send it to the front-end guy who is using, I don't know, Angular or a React application. We have one, I think, theme in the directory that is using React. So it's basically built like a React theme, and it's using all the default WordPress REST API. So it's a possibility. You can actually do that. You can submit your theme like that. But we try to kind of engage more with people about that. I think that authors are still kind of scared to experiment in that way, and not all of the theme authors...
We're not, sorry.
Okay, well, then you are definitely welcome to do that. But most of the authors that we are seeing are kind of like, oh, PHP, we know this, we're kind of comfortable with this, so they don't like to experiment. So, but yeah, experimentation is awesome. As I've said, we're working towards this full-site editing experimentation, and if you want to experiment with like React themes or Vue themes or Angular themes or whatever framework you want to have on the front end, just go ahead. It's not a problem. We'll find somebody who will review it and set it up live. So, yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Has anybody else have a question?
Don't be scared. Here. It's going to be quite a workout for you, like jumping.
Hi, I have no idea how the review process works. So I'm really new to this stuff. But I'm just curious, is it a first come, first serve for themes to be reviewed within those 4 months? Or do you have some sort of prioritization for certain themes?
I think it's first come, first serve. Like you upload your theme and then you get in a queue. So we're just picking from the top of the queue, and when the queue empties, we move it to the admin review. And then the administrator, who is like an experienced reviewer, needs to like recheck everything, because oftentimes the first-time reviewers, they miss some basic things, and then we just need to be a double check. Okay. And there is also a separate child theme queue, so these are differences, but we don't have like any special preferential treatments. So we try to avoid that as hard as possible. So if like automatic goes and says, oh, we want to have this theme and this needs to be set live, we'll say, okay, but wait in queue. You're not special, because WordPress.org is not WordPress.com. So
okay.
We're like,
yeah. Cool. Thanks.
No problem.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Denis.
Thank you all.